Married to music.
Yeah. Okay.
Tune in every Monday.
We back. We back.
We tryna get our M's up.
Big M's.
What? Music, money, marriage on a Monday. Come on. Married to music.
Oh man,
Sound effects is working.
know,
Are they?
kinda.
They kinda?
Whatever. Happy Monday, y'all.
Happy Monday, you guys. Welcome back to the Married to Music podcast.
We is your Bizak.
Big back.
And today we got a special guest we're going to get to in a little minute, you know what I'm saying?
We do.
Y'all know we're going to cover all the bases, music, money, and marriage.
And you know what?
What?
Happy New Year, you guys.
I don't think you can keep saying that.
This is our New Year episode. It is January the 9th.
After the 7th.
They
say
new...
after January 7th, you can't keep saying Happy New Year.
But
People it'll be June. It'll be like, Happy New Year, bruh.
No, not June, but
we 8 months.
Considering that this is our first episode of the new year,
okay.
it would be crazy not to tell our guests Happy New Year. Like, you are blessed to see a new year. You're here with us. We are so happy that you're here with us, and we hope you have a blessed and prosperous 2022.
That's a fact. Let's kick this year off.
What?
With magic.
With there we go. Let's kick this year off with sound effects.
We ain't having no sound effects today, y'all. Oh, my mama.
Oh man, today's gonna be a good day.
That's a fact. What we got for the people today?
Today we have a super special guest.
Yeah.
We're gonna be talking about, she's a lawyer. We're gonna be talking about contracts and contract red flags and like what to look for when you're looking for an attorney, an entertainment attorney. I mean, like everything contract related as an independent artist. This episode is for you.
That's a fact, man, because I know I get a lot of people. Somebody just asked me the other day, yo, Wavy, this record label emailed me, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They want to fly me out and sign me and stuff.
Right.
And I'm like,
they want the contract signed by tomorrow. You know, look, we all need help on this. This is the area that artists...
We don't want to get caught up being too thirsty.
Nobody want to get caught up being too thirsty. So we're going to have a professional. She is a professional in contract law.
Yeah.
And something else.
What?
That my best friend.
Oh.
She a real got her own car.
Hey.
It's an E-Class Benz.
Say that. Say
that.
Shout out to all the big Benz bosses out in the world. You know what I'm saying?
She did just get an E-Class Benz, so I had to do that. I had to do that rewrite. I did that rewrite just for this. Like I took time to think about it.
That's what you was up last night doing.
I couldn't wait. I was like, "That's my best friend. How can we rewrite this?" So
man.
You want to bring her in?
Yeah, man. Let's go ahead and get the people what they here for. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Erica Martin Lojas. Yeah.
Give her an applause.
That Zoom title came on. It said Professor. I was like, Professor. What's up, E? How you living though?
I'm good, guys. I'm good.
Yo, thank you for taking the time out to come and share all your knowledge with the people today. I know we gonna learn a lot and have some fun while we do it.
Yes.
So I just kind of want to start off, Erica, talking to you and kind of asking, how did you get into law? What part of law do you kind of practice, and how did you get into that? What was your journey to get where you are right now?
Okay, so real quick, I'm just gonna correct y'all. Everybody flips the A and the O, so it's Lajos. We are Professor.
What? I've been saying it wrong for years. My bad.
First of all, I feel crazy right now because this is my whole best friend from childhood. Why have I been saying your new last name wrong?
We're gonna edit this part out.
Everybody does. It's all right. It's
Lajos.
all right.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It flips, or they say Lahaz, or it's hard for people to. The Z is pronounced like an S, but anyway. So my journey. Knew I wanted to practice law from young. I won't go all the way back there.
But you know what? Hold on. I have to say this for your sake. This woman right here when you talk about like how everyone's into manifestation, and she has been saying she was going to be a lawyer since we were children. We were tiny kids, and Erica said, "I'm going to be a lawyer." So for you to actually be that, I love it. I love that you actually made it happen. You made a plan and you saw it all the way through.
So all my people that's out there talking about, I ain't gonna never be nothing.
You ain't gonna never be nothing.
That's how I add up.
Okay,
funny 'cause
no more interruption. Go
that
ahead.
whole- you say things, and it's not until later in life they tell you about manifesting goals and dreams, and you don't realize that what you're planting a seed from when you say things, even from that young, first grade. So, yeah, I followed through, and I will tell you one thing: when you have that dream and that goal from that young, when you hit bumps in the road, it's really hard because you think it's this straight path of ease, and it hasn't been. So, as you're manifesting dreams, and I would say even merging that with marriage, just kind of expect some bumps in the road, and be okay with that, because you will get to the other side of it where it's like, this is why, and this is why I went through this, and I'm all right and better for it now. And now, sitting in this professor seat, I can tell this story of my non-traditional career, so that they understand, okay, if I don't get this 6-figure job as soon as I graduate, I will be okay eventually. So, yeah, always knew this, went to a high school for law, went to college, Morgan State University, HBCU, took a philosophy major with a pre-law concentration there. Knew it, went to law, took a gap year, but worked in a law firm, where it was specifically for people who wanted to go to law school, so you could do a 1 to 3 year program in either mergers and acquisitions or litigation, which is what I did. White shoe law firm, watch people fail the bar left and right next to me. I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. And when I graduated from law school, it wasn't at all. I did a clerkship after. I always thought I wanted to do criminal and entertainment law. After my clerkship, I realized criminal was not for me. It was too much blood, too much gore. It was terrible. Family law is probably worse than that, because people are actually, fighting over kids.
Family law worse than criminal
hard.
law.
That's because family law people are still alive. You're dealing with people who are like in it, which is crazy.
Being nasty to each other.
And they lie about these kids. They lie. But anyway, and then throughout this whole process, Lydia was like, all right, we're gonna do this. All right, I'm gonna go to law school, and you're gonna pursue your goals in music. And when I graduate, I'm gonna be a lawyer. Like, this was the plan from high school, right?
I love those plans.
Yes.
And so we had gone to, Winter Music Conference in Miami. It was huge, amazing. And we came up the escalator, and it was, who was it? DJ Charles?
DJ Charles, who is like still instrumental in my career, got my music in films and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yes. And he says, we step off the escalator. We didn't know this man from a hole in the wall. He goes, you're the lawyer and you're the singer. And we looked at each other
like, how did you know this?
This is that essence.
It was that essence.
Yeah, so throughout, and then Lydia introduced me to who later became my mentor, Keith White. So whenever I would come up to New York, I would come to the studio with Lydia and just learn. He would sit there with contracts and just teach me, because one thing about law school, and this is what I'm pivoting into now as a professor, is actually teaching them how to draft contracts. That is not taught in law school. So you're kind of at a negative when you graduate, if that's the field you want to go into with contract law, because there is nothing setting you up for that. So Keith was super instrumental. And then so I graduated in 2009. I got my clerkship in 2000. From 2009 to 10.
Can you explain what a clerkship is a little bit? Because
so that's one of those prestigious positions that people want to get coming out of law school. You either want a clerkship, or you want to go right into what they call a white shoe law firm, which is a law firm that's been around for 100+ years. They're paying 6 figures as soon as you land.
So it's kind of like an internship.
A clerkship,
sorta.
but you're getting paid though.
Yeah, so the clerkship, you're working with a judge.
Okay.
And these can go from, circuit court, state level, all the way to federal clerkships. If you landed a federal clerkship, you're usually in a good position to set yourself up. Mine was state level, but she was the administrative judge over 3 counties in Maryland. So with her, I got to do a circuit of family, criminal, and civil law.
Oh, wow.
And you do that for a year, and you're writing opinions, and you're sitting in court with her. And my judge was a Black woman. She went to Howard University. Judge Sheila Tillerson Adams worked closely with her. She sharpened me. She was no joke. And at first I was like, this lady does not like me. But it was like, no, sis, like I know what you're gonna go through in this field. You are 2% of the field. Black women, Black lawyers, I think in total, I think we're 5%, but Black women are 2%.
Wow.
So there's no room for you to mess up. You gotta be sharp and straight and on the money. So it was her, and then it was my contract law professor, who was no joke as well, Mary Wright at North Carolina Central, and another person. I was like, oh my God, it was 100 people in the class. She called on me several times throughout that year. And I was like, I'll never practice contract law. I hate this. And
here we are.
I am.
Love it.
Here I am.
So I just want to run back to a couple of things. So one, you said that you went to a high school for law. Like, how'd y'all find that? Like, I never even heard that they had
a law high school.
A law high school. Like, what was that like for you? Knowing early that you wanted to get into law, and then finding a high school that catered to that.
Some of it was happenstance. So my mom, I went to school, District 29 in Queens. I was in the gifted classes, and then when it came time for junior high school, the local junior high school, my mom was like, nah. My dad went there, my sisters went there, my mother was like, nah, for my little brother and me. She ended up putting us in District 26, which for me was in Little Neck or Douglaston, Queens.
Yeah.
So funny, Lydia, because mom actually went where you went to school.
Where? You mean PS 131?
She went to 216.
Oh, she went to 216. Yeah. I mean, and listen, we have similar stories. My mom fought for me to get to 216 because our district, she did not want us in that district. She fought to get us into the better districts, and that's why I wound up even going to Cardozo with you. Because of her fight to get us out of the hood districts into the good districts.
So the school Cardozo, that's the same school. That's the law school.
Benjamin Cardozo was a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. And so you was there doing what?
I was there doing dance because they had a dance.
They had different programs.
They did dance program.
They had a law program.
Program there.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people that went there are doing really well.
Yeah.
In fields they came out of. One of our good friends, somebody who I always tout as just excellence, because even in high school when the guys were super immature, Royale Ivy, he just was on point and doing really well in his career in athletics now.
Amazing. And I love his wife too, Cassie. I love them as a team.
Yeah.
So
I want to shout out to the parents real quick. Like, that is so important to make sure that your kids are in the right schools and the right environments. It's instrumental. Like, because I have a similar situation. Like, I'm into the field. I learned how to record and make beats and do film and edit film in high school. Yeah. And this is the stuff that I'm doing today. So, like, having that earlier as possible, getting exposure to stuff like that is so dope.
So important. Yeah.
So when I went to 67, which was my junior high school, even then I was like in mediation and all these things, but I didn't know that Cardozo, before I went to this junior high school, was this law high school. Mm-hmm. So then when it came to start applying, I applied to all the specialized schools, but I always sucked at testing, and Cardozo, and it was just like, no, I mean, it's a law high school, go there. Yeah. So, it was just feeding and nurturing this from young. Yeah. From young.
I love it. High school's where I learned I didn't want to be a lawyer. I thought I wanted to be one. And then I got into Cardozo, and I was like, this is gonna be a lot of school.
This is what it's like in high school.
Let me stick to the creative stuff. So I love it.
Okay, so and then you touched on another point that I think is interesting is mentorship, right? You said Keith White showed you a lot during the mentorship, showed you contracts and stuff. Because you apparently in law school you don't learn how to write contracts.
No, you don't. So I have a few people that have been instrumental in my career. Andrew Bretler, who I met at Simpson, he was a first-year attorney. I was a paralegal. He knew I really wanted to go to law school. He used to give me stuff to actually do that lawyers were doing, instead of, only doing, what was assigned to me at the time. He actually be like, no, you read this and you write this, like, so briefs and stuff like that I wasn't really getting the opportunity to try my hand at. And then during law school, same thing. Like I knew what I wanted to do, but there were no courses really to prepare you. It's like the contract class in law school tells you the history behind a contract and what makes a contract, which is basically offer and acceptance, but and consideration. The consideration is the money or the service that you're offering.
Okay.
But there's nothing to teach you how to draft. So once I got out, you know, there was Keith, and then I finally landed that first big money job in 2015. That was 5 years after my clerkship and 6 years after graduation.
Wow.
Where Larry Schultz, who owned the firm that I was working with, met him through my GW network because I got my LLM, which is a Master of Laws in Intellectual Property.
What's a GW? Come on, you got to break it down for these people. I don't know. A GW,
right.
That sounds like a game.
After my clerkship, my judge realized, she was like, you want to do entertainment. You like intellectual property. You need to go get a Master of Laws, something that she had gotten. And that was never really pushed in my, I guess, career path or in law school. My other mentor, Leah, got her LLM in tax. So she said, I think it's something you should go for as well. And that schooling was really different. It was my first predominantly white institution that I had gone to. It was easier just because I was already barred. I was already a lawyer. So that pressure of getting that grade wasn't there anymore.
It was more about the learning.
Yeah. So I took digital law classes, patent classes, trademark classes, copyright classes. So that gave me that extra push. Still no class in drafting contracts though. So through my network at GW, which is George Washington University, is how I found the law firm that I worked at, which was Schultz Law Group in New York. And so I went there with some background in contracts, you know, working with Keith, I had a company for a while called Ground Up Legal. Yes. We'll talk about that in a little while. But I had some background and then ended up at this firm where I ended up doing tech law, which I didn't even know existed. And that was kind of the new trajectory of my career. So I've always been in some kind of intellectual property. Entertainment law falls under that. I still read contracts for entertainers, but it merged. My career totally merged. So I was doing tech law for Ernst & Young, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, some smaller tech companies for 3 years. And then I got laid off. And I like to tell this story because I don't want anybody to think that this process is easy, because it hasn't been easy for me. I got laid off and then used my network and contacts. I was applying for jobs online, which is sometimes like a black hole. And I knew somebody that worked at Viacom, and it was actually a cousin of mine, and she had sent my resume to Viacom before, and no bites when I first got out. And they saw my resume and they were like, where have you been?
Wow.
We've been looking for you. Like, I applied on your website 4 months ago.
Do you see how important relationships are important?
So I interviewed there. I got the job almost immediately. And that was because I had a background in entertainment and a background in tech. And that's what they were looking for. They said everybody else who applied only had entertainment background. Nobody was doing, you know, software deals and software as a service deals. And so that put me right back in entertainment. So it's just been like this back and forth merge. And then recently I got laid off from Viacom. They merged with CBS. They did layoffs during the pandemic. I came back after having a baby, and 2 months later I was laid off. And then I was interviewing for months. I'm talking these tech companies now. So Amazon, Google, Disney, which is an entertainment company, Meta, Facebook. I'm talking about days and hours, whole day long interviews. And then I landed a position with Facebook at the time, now Meta, through a contract company. And it was supposed to be a 3-month position, turned into a year. It's looking like another renewal is coming. And there I'm doing event sponsorships, SaaS, which is software as a service, media deals. So it just merged everything.
Wow.
So when we start talking, influencer deals is something that a lot of lawyers have not touched. And it's big now. So influencer deals, entertainment deals, deals with models. I have a client, I still do side deals with clients that come to me that I've been working with for years. So
so I kind of want to jump right into influencer deals. That piqued my interest right there. Like what's an influencer deal? Like what kind of contracts and situations are coming in that area?
So, you know, the big, I guess the overall want for companies to do these influencer deals is to bring traffic, right? Because if you look at most of these social media platforms, they're pretty much ad platforms at this point.
Right.
And data is huge. So if you can bring people to our site and they're going to give us their data, that's what we want to do. And it's just become, influencers have become the new commercial. They're the new way to get your product out there. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Right.
I think the biggest company to capitalize off of this has been TikTok. And now everybody's trying to play catch up because TikTok sped in front of everybody. I think they said for the past 11 years, Google was the #1 search engine and TikTok has now surpassed them.
What?
A little argument like, well, that's not a search engine. And it's like, it is, because you go on there, there's a bar, you search for what you want and it comes up.
Right.
So people doing more searches on TikTok now than they are Google.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And TikTok has become a place for recipes, a place for.
I was about to say, like, when it comes to cooking, TikTok is at the top. Everybody wanted to learn how to cook. And, I also think it's because the TikToks are so fast. When you do a Google search, it may be a whole list, recipes that you have to read. But TikTok is visual. And you literally see each step of the recipe unfold right before your eyes. And then, boom, you can cook your meal in an instant. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So just taking that as an opportunity, if you go on TikTok and you search something that you're looking for and you can't find, you have now created your stream of income. Create whatever it is that you were looking for.
That's missing.
And because I'm watching lawyers be lawyers, but also have TikTok pages and Instagram Reels pages where they're making so much money on the side, giving out free legal advice. Or
now, how do you make money doing that? I kind of understand some of it, but how do you make money as a lawyer on TikTok giving out free legal advice?
So it's dangerous in a sense, because you're not supposed to give out free legal advice. It's something I used to want to do and I couldn't figure out how to do it. You can just, I guess, put the disclaimer out there because I could give out New York advice and it doesn't apply in all states. And you're technically, if you're not barred in a state, you're not supposed to give advice in that state. But what companies are seeing, again, in no matter what kind of influencer you are, is people are coming to your page. I want to advertise on your page because you have X amount of followers or X amount of engagement, because the engagement is bigger than the followers.
Right.
And then when you go to somebody's page, you can obviously know, like, they're interested in this thing that you bringing, and this is similar to the product that we selling or the audience that we want to reach to.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
Amazing.
I get that. Shout out to our sponsors, though, real quick. Sweetwater.com. Let me give it up for Sweetwater for sponsoring this podcast, man.
Now,
Sweetwater.com, the best place to buy your studio gear, whether you podcasting, whether you doing home studio, you got a commercial studio, whatever you need, Sweetwater.com. Check them out. You feel me?
Yes, sir.
Now back to you.
So I learned a lot about these influencer deals, working with Viacom. It was my first time seeing the other side of this, and it's a lot of money in this stuff. Paying, $100,000 for a couple of videos because we know that people are going to watch your page. And so, on the side of the influencer, just make sure, if you are an influencer, if you're getting into contracts with these major corporations, that you have a tight deal. And one of the biggest things you want to do, and this is everybody, don't be in contract as yourself. Create a business so that you separate your personal assets, everything, from your contracts from your business.
Ding, ding,
So
ding, ding, ding. That is major key, y'all. Like,
Definitely.
start an LLC and make sure all things funnel through that, as opposed to your
mhm.
personal name and likeness. I love that.
What's the dangers in not doing that?
Yeah, so especially say you're one of these lawyer influencers or accountant influencers, or even if you're in music and you're an influencer, but you're doing really well in your other streams of income. Something happens and someone wants to sue you. If you have everything lumped in one, you give them access to all of that money. Versus if you're, Lydia Caesar, the earring maker, Lydia Caesar of Married to Music, Lydia Caesar as the singer, Lydia Caesar as, Sauce Records, you have four different entities. They can't come after every entity at the same time unless you are commingling funds, which is a whole nother ballgame. So once you create that LLC, right? You want to say, okay, we're doing an event for Married to Music. We're only using the bank accounts for Married to Music. That's it. So once you start, I'm going to just swipe my regular card, or I'm just going to swipe the Sauce card. Now you got a problem. It's called a company or a person it's called pierce the corporate veil, which means that veil or like a curtain is protecting you and your personal assets or whatever other assets. But the minute you say, I'm going to swipe this card, or, you start mixing those things, they're allowed to go through that curtain, and then everything is fair game.
Wow.
So you really got to keep your business and your assets.
Sheesh.
So question.
That is so crazy.
So I do a lot of brand deals and partner deals as an influencer. Now my company, my Wavy Wayne Audio Company, are you saying like that encompasses like my studio, and then when I do a deal with a company, they will cut the check to Wavy Wayne Audio as well? Are you suggesting that I should probably have a Wavy Wayne media company or Wavy Wayne marketing separate from like my studio and other businesses? And so when I'm doing influencer deals, they strictly are working with my influencer company.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And she's also saying, when you're buying for Wavy Wayne Audio,
Right.
if you use Married to Music podcast card,
Right.
even though the deal is through Wavy Wayne, if a company wants to come after Wavy Wayne Audio because of something that went down, just you swiping a card, or even you using your regular bank card,
Right.
now they could come after your regular money.
Right. Because since I already then
you
pierced the veil,
yes,
then they can do it too.
pierce the veil too.
Yeah.
I see.
So
Very important.
You have a studio where there are people coming in, right?
Yeah.
So you know what it is when you have human beings coming. It could be something as a slip and fall, right? You know that the studio's making $100,000 a year, but Wavy Wayne, the influencer, is making $1 million a year. You don't want them to have access to that $1 million money. You want to have only access to
the studio money or whatever.
I gotta go, y'all.
Time to set some things up, you guys.
This podcast is over. Nah, we getting gems, man. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So keeping those things, when you have bank accounts, like, pay yourself separately from that bank account. Stop having your savings account linked to your business account and transferring money back and forth. That's bad business. And so you really need to have those things separate and have an accountant. You know what I mean? Like my accountant, who I met through you, Lydia, Fred Towels, like
he's your accountant still. I love it.
For years.
I
for
love
years.
it.
And he keeps my business right. He keeps Fernando's business right. And then, anything we have together, it's all separate. And it's like, okay, we have to keep these things separate, file taxes on them separately. But those two things, like everybody wants to start a business. They come to me, LLC, and I say, do you have an accountant? Because I can set up your LLC.
Don't count. QuickBooks don't count as your accountant. You need a professional.
No. I mean, once you have that going, but just the advice part of it.
Yeah.
I can tell you to register an LLC or, a corporation or whatever it is in your particular state, but he's going to tell you your tax status and what you need. You can be an LLC and be taxed as a S Corp or C Corp, things that are outside of my realm. And what I have accepted as a person who's now almost 13 years out of law school is I can't do it all. I won't do it all. I have colleagues to to say, hey, let me refer you to this person because that's not my area. I think a lot of people think lawyers, and in practice it's true. We come out general. We can practice anything, but you got to know what you can and can't do. If I'm not doing criminal law every day, I probably shouldn't be giving somebody advice on criminal law.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think when you first come out of school, you're just thirsty and you want to do it all. You're hungry. You want to make some money back to pay off those student loans and put some money in your pocket. But after a while, you say, nah, that's not my realm. I don't know what I'm doing. So, not going to do that.
Wow. Okay, so let's get into something that our viewers may, that may really benefit them. When you're a new artist and, you may get a contract and you may not have, the money to hire somebody, can you run down like a couple, like maybe red flags that may jump out at somebody looking at an amateur contract, something that, you may get when you're just starting out?
Yeah. So I sent some of these to you.
Yeah.
I don't have my phone. So give me the first one and I'll tell you the problem with it.
Okay. So the first red flag that you sent to me was a sunset clause.
Sunset clause. So again, this came from my mentor, Keith. Never knew what this was. Again, I don't know if people generally see these things because you don't learn about these really. So if you're in a contract with somebody, say a management contract, right? And your contract is for 3 years, and you say that during these 3 years, any business that the manager brings you, they're going to get 10%, 15%, 20% of whatever profit, revenue, money you're making. What happens sometimes in these agreements, it happens with corporations as well, is they want to keep making money off your back. Either by saying, hey, Lydia, we bought you this Coca-Cola deal, and the Coca-Cola deal is for 2 years, right? And our contract is for 3. But we signed this on the latter half of our contract. So my contract with you as manager client might expire, but the Coca-Cola contract is going to keep going. What a sunset clause will say is if you renew with Coca-Cola, we want to keep getting paid off that deal, or it'll phase out like a sunset, right? So it'll say, okay, in year 4, you're going to pay me 15%. In year 5, you're going to pay me 10%. In year 6, you're going to pay me 5%. And it's like, why am I still paying this manager who's no longer my manager? Or why am I still paying this company that I no longer work with? But it's them still trying to make money off of deals that they've brought to the table.
Years and years later.
It's not going to say sunset clause in the contract. You just got to know what to look for. Am I still paying them a percentage once this contract is over? That would be your sunset clause. That is what you need to look for. That is a red flag in a contract.
Okay. Still getting paid. Contract is 3 years. You still getting paid in year 10.
I don't know. To me, though,
I know as the
because to me, I'm like, look, if I bring something to the table, that might be something that I'm interested in. Like, if I built the bridge for you, if you keep crossing that bridge for 20 years, like I built it.
Yeah, but the thing that people need to understand too about contracts is it's both sides. So while I was hearing you talk as from the artist side, I don't want you to still be getting paid off of me 10 years later. Even if you did bring it to the table, if it landed, it's probably because of your relationship and my talent. You deserve 3 years of getting paid since you brought it to the table. But once the 3 years is up, if they want to keep renewing with me, it ain't got nothing to do with you. It's because of my talent. So I want to keep you separate. But I also understand as the business person, on a business mindset, if I brought the deal to the table, I want to get paid for as long as you're getting paid. So
that's the thing. And that's what I'm doing in this class that I'm teaching at Central is the expertise that I got and the luck that I had working with the law firm is I got to do deals on both sides. So I represented the vendor and the client. And so I got to understand who needs what. And you better go into a deal knowing who needs what, right? You better go into a deal knowing I'm representing the artist, the sunset clause has got to go out, or pushing because I represent the business, or I represent the manager, we need this sunset clause. So what you guys are saying is totally on point. And you have to know, sitting on the lawyer side, who you are fighting for and what you need in these deals.
Yes.
And we'll get to that because that applies in all of those red flags that I sent you.
Right.
What side of the table you're sitting on and what you're actually
because it's a
for.
negotiation, Mike. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate.
Man.
Because it could go either way.
Yeah.
What's the
Okay,
new?
so another one of the red flags is the assignment clauses.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk on the artist side again, okay? On the artist side, you do not want an assignment clause in your contract, okay? So what that says is, I'm doing a deal with, I'll just use Coca-Cola again, right? I'm doing a deal with Coca-Cola. They sign me for a 6-month contract. They're going to pay me out. And that is who my deal is with. With an assignment clause, and again, when you're fighting with the big boys and the big girls, you have less leverage, okay? And you need to know that. And you need to know, again, never forget, early on in my career, it wasn't that early on. It was about 2015 when my then boss was teaching me about contracts and using we's and us's versus the name, Lydia Coca-Cola, right? It's got to be the name in there. I got a contract from a girl. She was trying to sign on with an agency. The whole contract said we, us. I went and redlined everything. The contract looked bloody. The agency walked away from her. Okay. It was something that I learned early on. I shouldn't have touched that. It wasn't that big of a deal. All I did was have to put in the preamble of the contract who we and us was and left it at that. I think she wanted to walk away, so she was okay with it. But it's something that now, 7 years later, I still haven't let go because I feel like that was my fault. It was an amateur move for me to do something like that. So same thing when you are, as lawyers, any lawyers that are listening to this, or as an artist, knowing how to fight for yourself, even when you have the representation of a lawyer. If Coca-Cola is offering me $1 million and what clause are we talking about right now?
Assignment clause.
Assignment. And Coca-Cola says that they want to assign this contract to Gatorade. Please don't fight that. Please be okay with that. You know what I mean?
Because what does that mean?
So that just basically means that if Instagram was its own entity, right? So then they got purchased by Facebook, who is now Meta. Any contracts that Instagram had with any influencers or any vendors, if they didn't have an assignment clause, once Instagram was purchased by Facebook, they can't necessarily transfer. So an assignment is a transfer to ownership. So if Married to Music has a contract with a vendor, you're saying that if we get purchased by iHeartRadio, all of our contracts can go to iHeartRadio. If you don't have assignment clauses on the company side, it makes it a lot harder for people to do business with you. Because it just means you got to go back into every single contract you have and say, hey, we're being purchased by iHeartRadio. We would like to move you over. Now giving the other person more leverage to negotiate for more money, it makes it harder for the company. However, as the artist, you don't want your contract assigned to just anybody.
Right.
Because I don't know who that person is.
Right. It's good if it's a big company, but what if it's some old BS company and your contract now automatically belongs to them? So
yeah, and we call it the mom and pop. Like we deal with this in big companies as well, where you'll have a smaller company say we want to assign, and we say no, we're doing business with you. We want the services provided by you. We're not looking for, Joe Schmo's pop-up shop to now provide us services because you just decided to assign this agreement to them.
And I think that when you have that assignment though, as a business, if you have those assignment clauses with with companies that you're working with, that makes like your value go up, I think, like to whoever might want to purchase your company, because they know that they can get all these contracts too, or they can, if they looking at those contracts and they don't have those assignment clauses, then that could be a problem for whoever the potential purchaser is of your company. Maybe that's why they looking at you, is because you have those deals.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it, hands down. So when you have these bigger corporations that are looking to buy or merge or acquire other companies, which is mergers and acquisitions, M&A, I'm not an expert in that in the least, but in all of the contracts I negotiate, they at least push and say, hey, we're not trying to assign this contract to, Joe Schmo. We're trying to say, if we are acquired by somebody, we want to make sure we have the ability to take this on. And then what most companies will say is, well, give me a list of who that might be. Because if it's a conflict, I want to be able to get out. So that it'll be my job to say, all right, we'll leave that in there, but we need a termination clause that says,
which is the next flag, termination clauses.
Yeah. So if you assign this contract to somebody that I don't like, or somebody that's in conflict to my business, I can get out. And that's what that, assignment is. So the segue into the termination is, you got to know what's happening in your termination clauses, right? We saw this firsthand. I saw this firsthand when I was negotiating an agreement for Lydia many years ago. And she thought she was in a 3-year contract, and it turned out she was in a 7-year contract.
Lord, that was a time. What a time we had with that. I was like, wait, who said what now? That was crazy.
So I'm reading this clause, and I'm like, I don't think this is a 3-year contract. It looks like this person has the opportunity to renew. It looks like you would have had to terminate this to get out of it, and you missed that mark. It also happened with another client of mine. She had to pay her way out of that contract. $10,000 she had to pay to get out of that contract. So that she can go to another modeling agency. So what happens is, I would suggest anybody who's looking for management to first, don't sign a contract, right? Have a 3-month, or if you do decide to sign a contract, make sure it's a short-term contract. You want to see that this manager or this agent or whomever is actually doing the work for you.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of times everybody's quick to want to sign their, almost did a Pootie Tang reference.
You can please. We
for
the culture. We for the culture.
Right, please.
Okay. Everybody's ready to like sign their name on the dotted line, but nobody really showed you what they can do. And a lot of times in these management contracts, you're not requiring the manager to do anything for you.
People want to sign so bad.
To give them 20%. Yeah, you're giving them 20%. You're giving them access. You're giving them power of attorney to negotiate things for you. And they don't have to do anything on the reverse. So you want to make sure that you read your termination clause, and that says, okay, I like this manager. We're going to go into a year contract. I do not recommend 3 and 2 year and anything longer than a year. We can renew in a year, right?
Yeah. I love that. That's great advice. 1-year contracts, especially in the beginning of your career.
Because I was, I think Erica advised me on that at one point when I had a contract with my manager. And she was like, yo, why you want to give a 1-year contract? Start them off with a 3-month, and then that's what we end up changing it up to.
Yeah.
But so right. And I like the point that you said, a lot of people enter those contracts and they don't require anything from the manager. Like, what kind of stuff should you be asking for your manager? Because we always know, like, yeah, you book me a deal and then you get 20% or whatever, but what should the manager be required to do? What kind of stuff should you be asking for if you hiring a manager?
So management of your accounting, giving you an accounting, because a lot of times, especially if you're a huge artist, you have no idea what's coming and going into your business. So you want to make sure that monthly they give you an accounting of who paid you, what deals are we doing, what percentages, what payouts, because a lot of times these contracts give them power of attorney to negotiate for you. They also have just the ability to do all of your business and all of your books for you. You need to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of these artists don't. And I'm talking about a huge, huge artist that I worked with for some years. And her manager really did a job on her contract where her then number one single, he was making, I believe, 50%, and she wasn't.
Jesus.
And it's funny because I won't say who they are because I met her through him. I was originally working with him. And I remember at some point he came to me, and when it came to, I did her trademark for her, and I remember at that time I said, who's owning this trademark? And at the time he said her, and I said, great. Now, again, as a woman in business, I'm like, yes, she owns her trademark. As I represent him, I say, are you sure? You don't want 50% of ownership of her trademark, right? Now, fast forward to probably 5 or 6 years later, now they're in court, and he calls me. Do I own her trademark? I said, no, you don't. She owns 100% of her trademark, and her trademark is her name. Like, if he would have owned a portion of that,
he would have gotten, big money. Wow.
Yeah.
Which is, it's, I like to, something I learned early in my career is that your manager works for you. And a lot of artists don't realize that it's not so much about the manager. Like, artists want a manager and a big wig manager, and I want to be aligned with this person and all that. But at the end of the day, you're the star, you're the artist. The manager their job is literally to work for you.
So people get it twisted because in a traditional job, you working for the manager.
Yes, and people don't understand that that your manager is like, you're the boss of the manager. And the manager is supposed to be securing you opportunities. They're supposed to be getting looks for you. Like, their whole job is to blow you up.
Word.
And that's how
that's what you want to put in the contract, Wayne, as your question, and Lydia, as the refresh of what you're saying, as the artist, right? What do you want this manager to do for you?
Yes.
What are your expectations? You're not hiring them for no reason.
Right.
Throw that in the contract. That's what you want.
Yes.
And if 2 months in, they haven't landed you any looks,
then that's not the manager. Yeah. Otherwise, they're getting money for no reason.
That's right.
And go ahead, E.
Just going back to the termination, you want to make sure that there's no automatic renewals in your contract. So it'll say to you, okay, this is a 1-year contract. And depending on which side you are, 90 days before the end of this contract or 30 days before the end of this contract, we come back to the table and we say we want to renew in writing, right? Writing can be an email now. You don't have to sign a whole new contract, but you should probably sign a whole new contract. And we say, okay, we want to renew this contract for another year or another 6 months or another 3 months. A lot of times these contracts have auto renewals in them, and the auto renewal isn't for a year. It'll auto renew for the entire length of the contract you already had. So if you had a 3-year contract, it's going to auto renew.
For another 3. Sheesh.
For another 3. And how we found out Lydia was in a 7-year contract was because she had already done 3 years, and then it auto renewed. And then
it was like option periods or something crazy in there.
Option period for another year. And that's how we found out she was in for 7 years. And we fought with this person to get out of this contract because she wanted to move on. And you shouldn't do that as a manager. You shouldn't hold on to talent. If they have become beyond what you can offer to them, you got to let them move on. Now, again, you probably want that sunset clause because you feel like, damn, I know they're at the
brink, right?
Of that break. But if you had a good relationship with them, they'll probably keep you on in some manner.
Right.
But if you're trying to hold on to them and not let them flourish, right?
It can be messy.
So make sure your termination language does not auto renew.
That make a lot of sense. Unless you on the other side.
Unless you're the manager, like, I'm trying to hold on for life. Okay, so we have 2 more: indemnities and ownership of IP.
Okay, so indemnification language is something that, again, I learned being on the corporate side, and I really feel like, especially with artists, that should be in there. And the reason being is that you're creating something. And so when, and this could be more on one side than other, basically an indemnification is a protection against a third party, okay? So I'll give it to you in terms of a technology company. say I'm developing a piece of software, and in that software, I decide to incorporate Amazon AWS or some type of Google service or some type of, Microsoft Word. And I'm using that to create this piece of software. And I don't tell anybody I'm using that to create this piece of software because I paid for it, so I'm able to. Then I go and I sell this piece of software to another company, and I'm selling it all over. And then it turns out that Microsoft comes and says, wait a minute, you used our technology in creating your piece of software. We're suing you now, and we're suing everybody you sold this to. Now, here I am, Erica, here is Microsoft, and here is Facebook, okay? Facebook bought this software from Erica. Facebook has no insight into the creation of this software, but now Microsoft sees the deep pockets. So they want to jump over to me and they want to go to Facebook and sue Facebook directly. I am the indemnifier. I have to indemnify or step in between Facebook and Microsoft. And I have to say, nope, Facebook had no idea. I'm protecting Facebook. Microsoft, you have to sue me directly. Okay. Now, this is important in creative because you might write a song. You might write a movie. You might produce something. And guess whose music you used to produce a song? You decided, I'm going to go use an old sample. Nobody knows what this is. I used to listen to my grandfather's music, and I'm going to pull some old sample that he used. Okay. And I'm the producer. And I produced this song and I gave it to Lydia. And she is writing and she made this dope song over this beat. And she blew up. And now here comes this artist, the company who made that original sample, like with Robin Thicke and Marvin Gaye's estate.
I just thought about that.
They listened and they said, that's our song. Okay. Lydia had no idea. Now they're suing Lydia. You need to make sure in the contract between you and that producer, there was an indemnity in there because you need to protect yourself and say, wait a minute, I didn't produce this song. I didn't make the beat.
Wow.
I didn't pull, I didn't slow it down. I didn't hear it. I didn't understand because I never listened to that artist a day in my life. I would have never been triggered to know that this song sounded similar. You need to be protected. So you need to be in these types of situations, you need to have indemnity clauses in your contracts. And
so you said that the artist will have an indemnity clause in the contract that with the producer.
Yes.
So that if the producer gets sued, that they can't sue the artist.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that actually happened with a track I was working on with Jim Jones and Ashanti. It's public knowledge, so I'm gonna put it out there. The track that I recorded. Yeah, basically the producer used some sample, and then the originators of that sample sued the producer, Jim Jones and Ashanti. Ashanti turned around and sued Jim because she was like a feature on the song, so she sued him because she got sued. It was all and it was all a mess.
There it is. You own a clothing line. I dealt with this, and I hope that, I know this is music, but I know that a lot of things merge when it comes to music. And a lot of artists will have a clothing brand or something. So one of the bigger things I dealt with early in my career, and I just, I didn't have that confidence that I do now. And so I had a client, and he was from North Carolina. He had this really cool clothing line, and he had the gift of gab. So he was able to get the clothing on somebody who went on 106 in Park at the time. And the name of the clothing company had the initials NE. And so they put it on a cap, and he was this like really small person in North Carolina, and here came New Era. New Era comes, cease and desist letters, they for trademark infringement, and he's like, whoa, what am I doing? I'm
just wearing a sweatshirt.
Right. So I looked at the mark that he created, looks nothing like New Era. So the whole thing with a trademark infringement is it likely to confuse people? Likelihood of confusion is the big reason why people fight over trademarks. If I look at his NE on this hat, am I going to be confusing it with New Era? And there was no confusion, but he didn't have the bread. So as much as I tried to fight for him, after a while, I was like, I wasn't getting paid on this. This was somebody referred him to me, and it was like, oh, we'll work together in the future. And it's just like, you got me fighting huge law firms right now, and a huge brand in New Era. And after about a year, it's like, we can't do this anymore. And he had to sign, and he had to say he wouldn't use his logo on a hat anymore. And it was devastating. So now I tell people like, okay, you know, don't go and throw somebody else's logo on your hat because you think it's only going to sell in the hood.
Right.
Because all you need, especially with social media, all you need is the right person to throw your baseball cap on. And now here comes some giant corporation coming after you, and you do not have the bread to fight them.
Right.
And you don't want to go and fight them. So yeah, it's really like making sure you protect yourself, you know, making sure that you have these indemnification clauses in there to say, okay, I threw, you know, I don't know, I'm using Charlie Brown's logo on my hat, and I have the permission from that company to use it.
Now, I kind of want to get in one thing. I know you got another red flag, but
no,
I think we had an important, that was the last one.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we had an important part to where I want to understand now. You said it's expensive to have a lawyer, to hire a lawyer, and stuff could go on for months or years, you know, in court or whatever. What's the advice to somebody? Like, how much should they be expecting to spend? Should they have a lawyer on retainer if you're an artist, or if you have a business, should you have, what do that look like if you don't?
Yeah. Basically, talk to the artist right now who's watching this that has no money. They have a contract and they need to try to understand it. What would you suggest that they do?
You have to spread that bread.
You're gonna have to spread that bread.
Have to. You know, early on in my career, I created a company called Ground Up Legal, and it was for the artists. Again, this came from me being around Lydia, going to her shows, seeing how many artists there were, and saying, okay, I can do this. Like, I can create this business model, particularly for the artists, working with businesses from the ground up, being their legal. And after a while, Keith was like, this is not sustainable. Like, this is not going to carry you and all these student loans you have and feed your family. I had no family, no kids back then. It didn't matter to me. I felt good. Like, oh, I signed somebody up, making $200. Like, this feels good. But after a while, I realized, like, I'm giving them the lawyer, right? LegalZoom gives you paralegals. LegalZoom has software now that's processing everything you send them. So you're paying them maybe $100 or whatever. I don't know what their model is, but you're not really sitting on the phone and getting legal advice.
It's all software.
So they can afford to do that. After a while, it just didn't make any sense anymore. You know, I'm filing these trademarks. I was charging people $300 for a trademark, and then having to go through all of their, like, because with trademarks, if you have some obscure trademark, you're good. If you have anything that people can mistaken, you start to have to go through sometimes a prosecution with the trademark, a lot of back and forth, and you didn't factor that into your model. And I'm probably speaking more to newer lawyers right now. You know, you got to charge what people are charging. So I was charging $300 for a trademark. Most people are charging $1,500 for a trademark. And so I was at a disservice to myself. But I wanted to help the artists. It was just super important to me. So if you can find somebody who, I still give out a significant amount of free legal advice against my better half's judgment.
Of course he does.
Shout out to the free legal advice that we can get.
Y'all better come to this podcast episode.
Hey, this podcast right here is worth $100,000.
It's the one, y'all.
You know, sometimes it's just part of the game. And then sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, I had this one girl, one woman who, she was asking me for years for advice, and I'm giving it to her. And finally, when she was ready to move forward and I had a real contract, she didn't want to pay me. And I said, I've been giving you advice for years, and you're upset that I charged you, I think it was maybe $1,500. I mean, I'm talking about hours of contract negotiations I did for her. And didn't like, oh, let me bill you for these trademark advice I gave you years ago, and bad blood. And, I have my hairdresser, Gabby, she's in business. And she said, here's what I want you to do. You made a mistake. It's all right. Going forward, have a little email or a little, text message that you pop up, say, hey, it was great talking to you. These are my fees. Okay. And if they want to move forward and they're serious, they will. I have one client, she just pays, like it's no issues with her. There's no chasing her down for the money, but she's got a thriving business as well.
So basically what you're saying is you're gonna have to pay. If it's gonna cost you. And I mean, and I figured that would be the answer because it takes a lot to get to where you are as a lawyer. Like it's a big investment in education. Sure. Right? So lawyers, you can't necessarily expect them to just give you legal advice for free. You've seen what these contracts look like. It takes time to read through and comb through and look through every line and see what's missing. So if you really, if the contract means that much to you, it's probably worth you investing in yourself and your career to make sure that you're not getting screwed over.
That's it.
Is the long and short of it.
Word up. I mean, I think if it's money, if it's a contract coming to you, that means that it's some money because you don't sign your name unless you're giving money, you're getting money. That's what my mama told me a long time ago. So if we talking about a contract, then I mean, it should be some kind of money. Now, if you negotiating a contract for somebody, let's say somebody approached me for $100,000 deal. I'm like, all right, look, I don't got the money yet, but if this deal go through, can I pay you once it goes through? Would you?
Yeah. Some lawyers will do that. I mean, that's the whole personal injury model. Personal injury lawyers, they get paid on the back end. They just take a percentage. So that's the thing. You got to say to yourself, do I want to pay this lawyer an hourly rate to negotiate this contract, or do I want to pay them a percentage of my deal? And personal injury, they're usually 33 1/3. That's what they take. So you make $100,000 off that slip and fall, they're taking $30,000 from it, right? So you say to yourself, okay, I got this $100,000 contract. This lawyer, to protect themselves because they're going to be doing a lot of work for you. Do I want to say, okay, here's a percentage that I'm going to charge you. You got to make sure that they're not like, playing you or overcharging you. It's so much in this business with, just the games and things like that, and people not being transparent and honest, but it's what you may run into when you don't have that upfront money.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, like, what's the best way to find a good lawyer? Would you say like referrals is the best way? Yeah. It sounds like that.
It is.
Yeah. Because that way you at least have, if you go to somebody you trust and ask for a lawyer referral, that way you at least have that person that if it all goes down, you can always be like, excuse me, who did you refer me to?
So it's your referral network. If you're going to a reputable studio like you guys' studio, you already know that, Lydia and Wayne have been in the game for long enough for them to refer me to a good lawyer if I need somebody to talk to. And for me, it'll be like, okay, I don't do that, but I'm going to refer you out to somebody else. Now you've created a network of lawyers. But like, don't go to a real estate lawyer asking them to look over your entertainment contract. Don't go to, some criminal lawyers do both. I've seen that over the years, but make sure that they know what they're doing. Keith is one of those people that knows what he's doing, and he does both, but he's been doing it for a long time now. So he has the visibility into and the knowledge into what goes where. I still go to Keith at times. Fernando ended up bringing along with him people who were, everybody in the hood is an artist. So after a while, it was just like, nah, I can't do these. Send these to Keith. Keith has the better eye. Let him negotiate these agreements. Let him draft up these contracts for you, because I just don't have the eye for that anymore. And so, but again, that comes with the experience of knowing what you can and can't do. And knowing that I'm going to end up overcharging this person because I had to do so much research into figuring out what this was. And stuff like that. So just finding that right network so that you're going to, and be ready to pay. If you're not ready to pay, go on LegalZoom.
You got and you got to pay them too, though.
You still got to pay them, but you may pay them less, but you basically gonna get what you pay for. So
and then sometimes I guess you would just like legal advice sometimes you just need, right? So you just want to be able to talk to somebody like you and get some insight on stuff. Like you giving us a wealth of advice today, but like people don't have those relationships to be able to call somebody up and be like, hey, I got a question. Then you got to find a lawyer and then pay them for that hour that you need to talk to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You know, see, I aligned my life perfectly. I said, let me marry an engineer.
oh man, I see what's going
My
on.
best friend is a lawyer.
Okay.
We got it. No, I'm playing. But no, that's
No, like even again, TikTok, it's a resource now. You know what I mean? There are a lot of lawyers. I'm sure there's some entertainment lawyer. Again, and if there's not, maybe there's the niche right there for you to create for yourself. Maybe I'll start doing it with tech.
I was about to say,
right.
can people reach out to you and you got a number they can book a call with you or something?
Yeah, of course. Like if for that, yeah, we can book an hour. We can book a half an hour and talk about whatever it is you need to talk about. But if you don't have the money, go find the resource. Use the internet. It's out there. Somebody is out there giving the information to you. It may take a little bit more time. Do I suggest negotiating on your own behalf? No. Just like I wouldn't tell somebody to represent themselves in court. Right. I wouldn't represent myself in court, and I'm a lawyer. I wouldn't do that. Like you need that expertise, just like you want to have a good engineer, just like you paid for all that marketing, just like you paid for the t-shirts you created.
Pay for all them chains, but you can't pay a lawyer. Come on now.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. It got real quiet on the podcast.
Oh, what?
No, I'm just saying the people watching would probably be like, ooh, yeah, she right. She right.
And everybody's, team this and music group that, and everybody in the team got some big chain on their neck, but nobody's protected. There's no good contracts.
They
people
protected. We got protected.
They got the straps.
Get the strap. We got the protect. Oh man, so I think it's time we switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
And start to
Wait,
dive
there was
off.
one more, L. I think there was one more.
It was one.
Oh, IP.
Yeah.
Ownership of IP.
Protect your intellectual property. Artists, this is probably the biggest part of a contract, of what you're doing. Some of this stuff is super simple. You don't need a lawyer to file a trademark. Should you get one? Yes. Is it something you can do by yourself? Absolutely. You don't need a lawyer. And this is the cheapest part of things, is to do a copyright. Go and copyright your lyrics. Go and copyright your production. Copyright it, protect yourself. Because even in these contracts, sometimes you'll have managers who want access to that. They want a piece of your IP. Protect yourself. Look for that in a contract. It might say that they get ownership of your IP.
IP is intellectual property. You guys write that down. That's very important.
And that includes what? Like if the lyrics to a song, the beat you might make, a video, whatever it is that you create, your everything ideas, your thoughts.
Everything you create. And later on, we're going to have to do this again for NFTs. I'm like learning this.
Oh, we lining that up.
Yes, I took a CLE on that the other day. It's something that I've been encouraging young lawyers to get into that world because it is developing as they're developing. But your IP is worth something. Intellectual property. If you think about real estate and that property, you have a house, it's tangible. Intellectual property in some ways does not feel tangible, but it is. It is everything you make. When you are an artist, that IP is your bread. Yeah. When you hear somebody's song on a commercial, they license that. Somebody paid them for that. If you're not protecting yourself, they will grab that song and use it, and you have
no ground,
no protection. Now you're like hustling backwards. You're now trying to go register something, which they probably have already registered, and now you have to prove, and now you got to go to court
and pay money.
You have to fight. You have to fight, and I'm not talking about state court, I'm talking about federal court, because intellectual property is a federal copyright, trademark, patents. Those are federal things. Yeah. Now you got to try and go afford a federal lawyer. Good luck.
It would save you a little bit of
yourself, because if you hear your IP and somebody's using it and you've registered it correctly, and I'm not talking about trademarks. Some people have state level trademarks, federal level. Go register it. Because if somebody is using your trademark and it looks similar and you have that mark, you are going to be able to fight. I think $125,000 that you would automatically get for copyright infringement before you even start fighting. So you have to protect yourself. I've seen it. I have somebody who, oh my God, family, Slim Pickens, archives and archives of Biggie and Tupac, every artist you can think of. And it's like, I remember he hit me up. I saw an image of mine being used in Ebony. Oh, okay. Let me call the lawyers over at Ebony. Let's get you your bread. Like,
that's like you remember when we got paid that one time? It wasn't much, but
it was on the news.
They used lottery in some news in Nebraska or something. I called up Erica. We got a little check. We got a little check.
So I want to know. You said something real quick. You said that if somebody infringes on your trademark, it's like an automatic $125,000 penalty, or what?
125. I think it's a copyright. I'll have to come back and refresh on that one, but I believe it's a copyright. Like if you registered it properly and somebody wouldn't infringed on you, you get that bread. So you have to, because if you don't, you are. I keep saying like hustling backwards, meaning. Now you have to figure out, what do I need to do? How do I prove this? I don't know who told people back in some time
that you could mail yourself. I knew you was going there.
That's that ghetto trademark, man.
Mail yourself the CD. I definitely did that in the beginning. Definitely.
I don't know where that came from. I'm not really sure. Even in the copyright courses I've taken, I've never heard of that as being a thing.
That's some hood news.
Don't just go. It's easy now. It's copyright.gov. Used to be have to call Library of Congress. Copyright.gov. Go up on there, upload your song, upload whatever, and that's it. You got a script, upload it. I wrote a script. It's on there. It's on copyright, and there's another one. What is it? It's called WGA. I can't remember what it is.
Well, we'll put it in the description though.
Whatever I found out could protect myself, I did it. Yeah. Because you just never know who your stuff can fall in the hands of, and they love it,
right?
And they're gonna use it. Yeah. There are people. I think it's the Matrix movie, and this black woman got paid out all these years later. I think it's the Matrix, just because her script got out there, and you can sign NDAs with people. That's a whole nother thing we will talk about, I guess, another time, but. The NDAs usually people put a 5-year limit on an NDA. If you can do a lifetime NDA, do that. Confidentiality,
non-disclosure agreement. You guys, that's an NDA.
Non-disclosure agreement, which means I come to you and I have this phenomenal idea, but you're gonna help me execute it because you are somebody who can draw, or you are somebody that knows how to develop software.
Right.
You need a non-disclosure agreement so this person doesn't run with your idea.
Facts.
And it protects you. And I would suggest doing a lifetime non-disclosure agreement instead of 5 years. Most people have a 5-year cap on those. Or if you have a song idea or a video, whatever it is.
Right. Because you're gonna need help. You got them people got to sign NDAs.
Is this a myth though? Because I've been told. I don't know if it was like a professional or something, but I've been told that as long as your idea is put into a fixed tangible medium, right? Like, so let me, like, if I got a song idea, if I record it, and then it's on the hard drive, it's fixed tangible medium, then that technically it is copyrighted, but it's not registered with the federal government. But I do have some type of protection because I have that creation.
I think that comes into the proof, don't it? Like, okay, maybe, but then you still have to go to court and prove it through the hard drive and spend all that money.
And that's why NFTs is going to be important, because we're going to put it all on the blockchain, and then it's going to be, we ain't even got to talk about it.
But did I answer that right, or
you did? It's the uphill battle,
yeah,
right? Because in certain countries, trademarks are whoever is first to file. Other areas is who's first to use the trademark. First to file is huge. I believe United States is first to file. So you want to file that. And if I'm wrong, I will correct myself in the comments. It's been a long time since I took that course. But file your stuff and make sure your lawyer is backdating it to when it was first used, because that comes into play as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I could only imagine, like, if there's a fight about some lyrics or something, you know, and I can prove with the hard drive date
Right.
that I did this 5 years ago, and the hard drive you bring is 2 years ago. I'm gonna win, but we have to take that to court,
Right.
which costs
Signet-
money.
right. Lawyers, all
Get in
that.
front of a judge and all of that, and you can avoid all that by just getting it registered out the gate.
Yeah, getting your
Yeah,
copyright.
so much. It's so much. And again, it's using a lawyer, because a lot of these companies, they have back software running. So they know when their stuff is being infringed. It'll pop up, and there's a lawyer who sits there and reads emails daily about a possible infringement of a trademark or something like that. You know, it seems like YouTube is incorporating it where they'll now block something you tried to post because a song comes up.
Copyright claim. That thing come up quick.
So there's software. You can look at a font and say, if I'm creating a beverage, I better not use Coca-Cola's font. Because I don't care if the beverage is called whatever it's called. If it looks like Coca-Cola's font, then that's a likelihood of confusion for people to think that is their new beverage. So it's really deep to have people with a keen eye, to have good lawyers to say, that looks similar. I've done it a lot where somebody will send me something and I'm like, that looks similar to something I've seen before. Who created this for you? Or a lot of people get logos done on these logo websites.
On Fiverr.
Fiverr or just plain logo websites. And it's like, did you pull that? Did you buy it now? There's other files that you can buy. Did they pull it off the site now? Or is somebody going to go and create a logo that looks just like yours? So it's
and then that could be a thing too, because you hire somebody to create a logo for you, but do you really own that logo, or do they own the logo?
Right.
You know, because that can get off into a whole nother thing. I think that happened with like the guy with I think the Michael Jordan picture or something like that. It was something crazy that Nike had to go to war with.
That's your contract.
Yeah.
That's your contract again. Make sure the person who is developing something for you, you are in contract with them. So that if you end up seeing a logo similar to yours in a year, you say, wait a minute, what is this? You told you an artist, and then you find out, oh no, well, I use software to develop my logos.
Oh, okay.
So
now you got my logo looking like everybody else.
But it's cool because I got an indemnity clause. So once they try to come to me, you can go into the designer, go on over here because he the one made it. I'm cool.
Right.
Or on the flip side of that is there's another clause in the contract that says you develop this, right? Because an indemnity is not going to help you against the person who's creating it in that sense. You want to make sure there's something in the contract that says, when I wrote this song, when Lydia wrote this song for Beyonce, that Lydia created this song. Because if you didn't, and that person comes after me, I need to go after you, right? So it's like, you're certifying that this is your work. You want that label maker, that trademark maker to certify that this is their work. Because if it's not, I need to sue you for you creating or creating something for me that you didn't really create from scratch.
Okay. Man, so much. I
mean, we could do this for hours.
So much, but we can't get them forever, man. They're going to have to call Erica on her hotline and pay that hourly fee if y'all want too much more of all of this.
Okay. So, I mean, we can pivot into that. We talked about the music. We talked about money.
For sure.
Now we're just going to do a couple questions about marriage because Erica is a married woman and a boss mom.
Boss mom, boss up.
So, but you have two questions. I'm going to ask mine, and then Wayne came up with a really great question. So I just want to know, like, being a working mom, 2 small children, how do you juggle it all? You know, being a wife and a mom and being a professional with 6 jobs. She don't get tired. I'm sure she gets tired. Tell our viewers, like, you know, what does your balancing act look like?
So my therapist just asked me this the other day and I couldn't answer her. I think that Fernando and I have become more aligned as of recent. You know, we've done some work on our marriage because you come into this and there are no assignments, right? Who does what? And when you're 2 people that are working hard, you can feel like, well, I got in late, so that's not my job tonight. And you can feel like, well, I've been here all day. I might work remotely, but I'm still working. So I need you to pick this up. So we've gotten to a point where it's like, all right, I'm going to cook. You're going to do the dishes. that's just that's our, I don't even know if I should call it a silent contract anymore. It's kind of one of these things where we've had to kind of lay it out and say, this is what I need your help in. Lucas being in school is a help because I have silence during the day. That's new. He's just turned 5. So before last year and the year before, in the depths of that pandemic with a newborn, it was difficult.
Yeah.
It was really, really difficult. I just added this course on now teaching. I'm not quite sure how I'm balancing it yet. But we are, teamwork. Like, that's what we've had to do. Just having the baby. Like, I realize how, I guess, I become vulnerable when something happens and he steps in, and we teamwork really well. So like, the baby had an explosion in the tub the other night, and I was like, I'm not touching that. I could deal with throw up, can't deal with poop. So he's laughing, and we drain the tub and we teamwork, and he scoops it out, and then I go and clean the tub. And it was just like, who else was gonna help me do this but him? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my teammate when it comes to stuff like this. When I'm in the kitchen cooking, I love to cook. You come in and you give me a kiss, you slap me on the butt, like, you let me know, you tell me at the end of that meal how good that meal was. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, I need that. Or like, you got to take out the garbage and clean the kitchen. All right, I'm doing baths, or he's doing bath. It's really like teamwork. Yeah. And I'm not really sure how people do marriage with children without teamwork. Because I can't do it all, and I don't want to do it all. I'm not trying to wear the Superwoman cape and say, oh my God, I have this prestigious position as a professor, and I have this, top tier job at a tech company, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and I have no desire for that. Right. I'm married for the partnership. I'm married for the love, and had children with that in mind. My dad was hands-on with us, with my mom, and that was my expectation too. So that, and then we just hired a nanny.
And then
shout out to the nanny.
And then there's a nanny.
So you said something.
She starts on Monday, so I haven't had that yet, but I'm thinking that that's going to be some help.
That's going to be so sweet.
Okay.
Congratulations in advance.
Word up. Yo, you said something. You said that y'all basically a silent contract. You do the dinner and he do the dishes, or something like that. Now, do you think a silent contract work, or do it need to be a vocalized?
But that's why
thing?
she said not so much silent anymore.
Right, right. So like, did y'all realize that, hey, we can't just assume that what's understood don't need to be said. Like, that ain't a thing.
Nah, there's none of that in marriage. I think that you have to be vocal in the things you need. You have to communicate. That's silent. Oh, I'm mad and I'm going to be quiet. He's going to know why I'm mad. You better throw that out the window. It doesn't work.
It don't.
Because people are sometimes in their own world. They can't check into your stuff too. It doesn't matter that you're married. It's sometimes like, I am stressed out right now. Oh, and he's being quiet. Okay, cool. But he's really pissed off, but I don't know. You got to tell me. I have come into this new world of transparency. I say everything. This is what I need. Can you provide this for me? You know what I mean? I need you to know, like, I used to feel like, I'm cooking dinner. He knows what time it is. How come he doesn't bathe them? Because he's doing something else.
He's playing GTA. Give me a break. No.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap.
I gotta say, like, hey, I'm bathing. I'm doing dinner. Can you bathe them? All right, cool. I got you. So
that's so true though. Like, it's just communication. It comes down. It boils down to not just communicating, but communicating effectively. Saying what it is that you need, saying it out loud, not saying it in your mind, and being mad that your partner can't read your mind, which tends to happen in a lot of relationships. So
there's no mind reading. Sorry, I had the recording. And sometimes you got to come back to the table and renegotiate, right? So we're talking about merging my career with understanding marriage. I got married for love. I didn't have, just like, how did I bring my career into this? No, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about, some people, oh, marriage is just a contract. I can't stand people who say stuff like that. And most of the people who say that aren't married and want to be married, want to fall in love, and or upset that they're in relationships with somebody who doesn't believe in marriage. So they sign up for that construct. I don't believe in that. I think it is a partnership. I think there is love involved. I think that you need to be fluid and willing to move and
change
say that we were in 2007 when we got married is not who we are in 2022 with now 2 children, a bonus child for me. His business is booming, my career is thriving, we're changed, so we got to come back to the table. Therapy has worked for us in that manner, just checking in. Fernando and I are like, you know, city mouse and country mouse. We don't always communicate in the same way. And the way he shows love, sometimes I don't get it. And so it's taking a third and fourth party to say, you don't hear what he's saying to you. He's telling you he loves you. And I'm like, you can say I love you. You know what I'm saying? So understanding each other and being able to come back to the table and renegotiate and say, okay, you know, we're in a really good place financially. Should we hire somebody? Hell yeah, let's do this. It'll take something off both of our plates. And now we can pay a little bit more attention to each other or have some side time individually if we need. You know, date nights are like non-negotiables. We need that every week. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes Lucas will say, you know, go take your date night in the basement because you know, I created this whole lounge space and it's like, damn, our childcare just canceled on us. But that time together is important. So if I can think about my career now and think about marriage, it's like, you know, be transparent with what you need, write it down if you need to, write a contract if you need to between the two of y'all, and be able to renegotiate when the situations change and evolve and, you know, life comes and smacks you in the face.
Word up. Yo, my question, you kind of touched on a lot of the stuff that I was, that I feel like you would say on as an answer to my question. But what I was thinking was like, how has you, being a lawyer and everything you know about law and contract, how has that affected your decision to get married? And then also like how, you know, the marriage flows, has that had any impact on, you know, how you look at marriage?
You know, my decision to get married, you know, had nothing to do with, you know, that. Like, I don't know, maybe if I was worth millions, a prenup would have come into it. I think that's something that people should think of. If you talk to Chris Rock, he says the people that own that make $40,000, $50,000, $30,000 a year need to have a prenup more than the billionaires, because half of 30,000 will leave you hungry. Walks away.
I can't afford to give up half.
You know what I mean? Dr. Dre gave away $100 million and he's got balloons that says divorce as F. Like, he's all right giving away $100 million, but you know, you having to give away half of your $30,000 is going to be
serious.
It's going to be tight.
That is such an amazing perspective on that. Wow, that's
you know,
funny.
But no, it didn't play a part at all. I mean, I guess if you talk to Fernando, he would say that there's parts of my personality and parts of my.
You probably argue different. You probably be in there. Well, actually, if we refer back to the, like, dang, man, chill.
You know, I mean, he's in sales, so I would definitely say that parts of our profession bleed into the marriage, and it's not always great. You know, I need proof for everything, and it's just like, relax. Like, you don't need proof for everything. I said what I said, and this is what it is. So I've had to dial back, or like when he talks, it's like, and I'm like, yo, bro, slow down. Like, I'm trying to process what you're saying. You're not selling me right now. Just talk. So we've had to learn that, like, it's part of you. It's who you are. You know, a major part of who you are is what you do professionally. But it doesn't always have a place in your marriage. And you got to be able to turn that off. I think as a woman, when you are, you know, in boss-like positions in your career, you got to dial that back when you're dealing with your husband, because it doesn't have a place. And same with your husband. It's like, you know, if you are in this boss-type position, you got to dial it back and treat me tender. I don't need to be talked at or anything like that. So it's learning those things. Being okay with it. I got married later in life, I had children later in life. So, you know, I was very career driven, still am. So, you know, I was not ever the little girl that, oh, I can't wait to get married when I grow up or have kids. I wanted to be a lawyer. And so when I met Fernando, I was like, oh, I really like this guy. I would have a child or 2 or 4 with him. But that it wasn't me. So I had to learn. Even though I saw marriage, my parents were married 30 some odd years before my dad passed. Like, I had to learn. I'm learning how to be a wife and a career woman in these boss positions, and just learn to dial it back, let him be in control, be vulnerable, and swap those positions at times.
Yeah.
Word up.
I love it.
Yo, shout out to you.
Shout out to
Boss
Erica.
Yo, we learned so much. I feel like, I got some work to do. I appreciate you putting us on to game.
Yeah.
This episode is definitely it's like one for the history books for sure.
And I knew it would be.
All right.
Me and my, I had to have my wife on the podcast.
Stop the cat. Stop the cat. There we go.
Listen, Erica don't play. Don't let me post anybody else on my story like a girl like, hey, lunch with my boo. She be like, excuse me, who's that?
Yo, Erica, with all the gems that you just dropped on us, like, can you let people know where they can contact you? Maybe if some people want to talk to you, follow up with you, hire you, like, where can they find you?
I am. What am I on Instagram? Erica Grace Martin. I don't even know. That's terrible.
We'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
And drop an email, like a work.
Grace Martin at gmail.com.
Okay.
Is my email.
And
don't hit her up without trying to ask for free advice.
I was just about to say, you better have your budget together. Okay, don't be stalking my bestie. Talk about, can I get some free advice?
So this is all the free. Run this podcast episode back. This gonna be all the free advice y'all can get.
Yes, absolutely.
Yo, Erica, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us.
Yeah.
Yo, we out of here. Married to Music podcast. Hey.
Married to Music.
Yeah.
Tune in every Monday. We're trying to get our M's up.
We're getting our M's up. We're not
Music,
trying.
money, marriage on a Monday.
Doing that thing.
Married to Music.
Peace out, y'all.